In the summer of 2018, my friends and I, Abby, Marcus, his younger brother Tim, Tim's girlfriend Hannah, and me, planned a weekend trip in the Blue Ridge Mountains. We were all in our early 20s, fresh out of college, and eager to unplug from everything. We picked a spot far off the grid, deep into the national park, where the trees grew thick. Thea smelled of pine and damp soil, and there was no cell signal for miles. Thea's first night was normal. We hiked in with all gear, found a clearing by a lake with just enough space for 3 tents, started a fire, and cooked hot dogs and marshmallows. We told stories, drank, and stayed up late, watching the stars. The silent, soft forest was relaxing. It wasn't until the second night that things started to feel wrong. At around 11 p.m., we were still sitting around the fire, laughing, when Marcus suddenly stiffened and pointed towards the woods, asking if we saw that as well. We looked, but nothing was there. He saw movement, a figure ducking behind a tree, maybe 30 or 40 yards away. Tim dismissed it as a deer, but then 20 minutes later, we heard a stick snap in the same direction. This time it was loud. Abby was clearly spooked and said she wanted to go to bed. Everyone agreed to call it a night. We doused the fire, zipped up the tents, and tried to sleep. That night, I woke up to something that still haunts me. Breathing from just outside, probably not even 10 feet from my head. At first, I thought I was still in a half-dream state, but it continued. I was with 4 other people, though it could have maybe been one of them going goodside to pee, but I didn't hear the sound of a stream, just the breathing. The breathing also almost sounded like an older person, someone who was short of breath from smoking too much. I reached for my flashlight, but didn't dare turn it on. The breathing moved from one side of the tent to the other. Then it stopped. I waited without saying a word, because it was the only thing he could do. Since the breathing stopped rather suddenly, I felt a sense of relief that my original thought of it being one of my friends peeing was accurate. So eventually, I fell asleep. In the morning, I said nothing, neither did Abby. But when we met up for breakfast, Marcus had a concerned look on his face, like he was antsy to tell you something. He said someone was outside our tent last night. Hannah nodded and said she heard it too, and noted that it was walked around the tent more than once, and it could have been more than one person. I asked the entire group if anyone got up to pee last night and that maybe that's what we heard. Tim responded that he did go pee, but Thad thought he saw a figure crouched near the fire pit. Around 4 a.m. we searched the area, and we found footprints in the ground circling all 3 tents, but in a spot where Thedart was a little wetter, more like mud. One of the footprints was very clearly from a bare human foot, not shoes or boots. This made the whole thing even stranger. They led into the woods and vanished. We tried to joke about it, saying maybe it was a crazy hiker or prankster, but it didn't feel like a joke. That night, we stayed up later, talking nervously around a much bigger We kept our flashlights close. Around 2 a.m. we heard that awful sound of the crunching of leaves in the distance, but this time there was a voice. It was a low voice, to quiet to understand, but definitely human. Marcus napped on his flashlight, and for a split second we saw who it was. It was Armin, fully naked, crouched behind one of the trees nearby. He scrambled back into the trees like an animal that just got exposed. All of us were completely shook. We were too scared to even break to go into our tents. Staying out in the open with all 5 of us together just felt safer. Hannah suggests packing up and leaving, but Marcus and I said that was a horrible idea. Packing up camp this late and finding our way back to the car would not only be extremely difficult, but also extremely terrific, worrying that that man was behind us, following us. That night, worst night yet, and maybe one of the worst nights of my life. I didn't get a single second of sleep. I was wide awake, and perhaps that may have saved me, or my belongings, at the very least. However many hours had passed before I heard the distant sound of a stick snapping or a leaf crunching. I said out loud, "Please let it be a deer." A few moments of silence passed bare. A voice from out in the woods said, "I see you guys." It was not any of my friends. I didn't know if any of my friends were awake and also heard it, but I heard none of them react. So, I guess I was too scared to be the only one reacting. What happened next, I never would have expected though. I heard my tent shift ever so slightly, which caused me to shoot up and look at the tent zipper, and it started to slowly move down. He started to scream at the top, of milings causing my friends to also whoever was on the other side of my tent took off, I presume, but I can't know for sure. All I know is a laugh, us yelled at each other, to communicate through the tents. I zipper back up fully, and I didn't hear breathing or footsteps again. That night, I didn't fall asleep. I watched as the morning sun slowly started lighting up the place. At dawn, we packed everything and left. On the hike back to the car, the tension didn't leave us. At the ranger station, we told them everything. The ranger listened not carefully, then said they've hate reports. A man, maybe more than one, living out there. Some said they steal things and others said worse. I don't know what worse mess. We didn't ask. Well loaded off in the car, but it didn't really feel funny to me. I don't think I could ever go camping again after that, especially after the zipper thing.